Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. We are taking a look today at the Seattle Kraken and some of the moves they can make ahead of the expansion draft. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Let's take a look at the Seattle Kraken. So guys, let's get right into it. So I'm going to go over a couple of things in this video. So the first thing we're looking at is the Seattle Kraken and how they're going to handle the expansion draft. Now, are they going to maybe take some not so good contracts from some other teams, right? So they could reach that salary cap ceiling or the salary cap floor for that matter. And maybe they acquire some first, second round picks in order to do that, which sounds pretty nice. Or will they go the route of, we're just going to take the cheapest contracts that are the best players, the best value for their contract, and we'll just take that. And that's just what we're going to do. So we're going to see what is in store here for the Seattle Kraken. Now we're going to go over a couple of teams in particular that I think are really good examples of this. If they're going to make a deal, maybe say, hey, you know what, Carolina, we're looking at taking so-and-so. Maybe you want to consider giving us a first and a second, so we maybe select somebody else, right? So we'll get into that. And it's hard determining the price. What's the price for Seattle to not take somebody and to also take somebody else? That is something that we are going to figure out over the next couple of months. So the Carolina Hurricanes are the perfect example. We'll go to them first. So the Carolina Hurricanes, it helps that they trade out Hayden Fleury to the Anaheim Ducks earlier at the trade deadline. But they still have some issues. They need to figure out what they're going to do with Dougie Hamilton, because right now you have Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, and Brady Shea, right? And those are your three guys that are eligible. Jake Bean is not eligible for the expansion draft. So it's Brady Shea, who has a no move, I believe, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, and Jacob Slavin. Now that means Dougie Hamilton is exposed in the expansion draft. Now, his contract does end this season, so if Carolina does decide that they want to keep him, they can re-sign him, but then Brady Shea has to be, put on the board. And that's a guy that Carolina doesn't want to lose in Brady Shea. But I find that quite peculiar because he's making $6 million per year for the next 3 years. That seems a little bit high for Brady Shea, but to each their own. Touche, I guess you could say. The Carolina Hurricanes seem like they're going to keep those three guys, and Dougie Hamilton, if he doesn't get picked up by Seattle, doesn't sign with Seattle by the time the free agency period rolls around, I think Carolina plans on keeping him if he is still available. But that definitely makes things interesting down in Carolina. The Colorado Avalanche, another good example of a team that is going to be interesting because you have captain Gabriel Landeskog as an unrestricted free agent. Do they do the same route here like Dougie Hamilton in Carolina? Probably not. They're probably going to want to lock up Gabe Landeskog because chances are the Seattle Kraken are going to take Gabe Landeskog even if he is a pending unrestricted free agent because he is unprotected. That seems like a bet Seattle would be willing to take. But the more likely scenario is Gabriel Landeskog resigns and they decide the future of Erik Johnson, who currently has a no-movement clause on his deal. He could lift that no-movement clause. It seems like he is willing to waive it in order for the Colorado Avalanche to protect newly acquired defenseman from the New York Islanders, Devon Toews. So that means you've got Cale Makar, Sam Girard, and Devon Toews. Now, the problem is you still have a couple of guys, specifically on the defensive side of things, that are unprotected. Like I said, you're going to keep Toews, but now you've got some other issues. Ryan Graves, Kyle Burroughs, that Jacob McDonald defenseman, who has looked like a really potential top 4 defenseman in the league. That's made things much more difficult here for Colorado. So what Colorado may have to do is give up a first and a second in order for the Seattle Kraken to take Erik Johnson on his contract. Now, it may even be a higher price tag than that, than just a first and a second. But then again, at that point, is it even worth it for Colorado to, not keep Jacob McDonald or Ryan Graves at that point. Maybe you're better off just losing those guys. So at the end of the day, this could be a good situation for Seattle once they look at the Colorado Avalanche in the expansion draft. Now the Florida Panthers. Now the Panthers are different from these other teams because it's a goaltender, Chris Driedger. Chris Driedger is available, and like Dougie Hamilton, like Gabriel Landeskog, he is a pending unrestricted free agent, which obviously changes things just a little bit because, again, this is a guy that maybe the Seattle Kraken look at the Florida Panthers. There's not a ton of guys that are drawing our interest, so maybe we look at Chris Driedger here to be a goaltending option. Like I said, they need to pick up 3 goaltenders in the expansion draft. So that may be something that they look at with the Florida Panthers. The Edmonton Oilers. Now the Oilers, this is recent. The Oilers may look to unload the final 3 years at $4 million per year for Oscar Klefbom. It seems like his future in the NHL is uncertain at this point, which would lead us to believe that they may look to move out the defenseman. Now, again, that's going to come at a price tag because you're looking at maybe a first and a second for them to take Oscar Klefbom and not maybe Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, maybe not Ethan Bear. That's kind of the scenario we're looking at. And Ethan Bear has kind of taken on part of the role there for Oscar Klefbom at a much cheaper price. So that may be something that the Edmonton Oilers look to do anyway, whether we saw Oscar Klefbom return next season or not. The only problem is it's going to come in at a hefty price, a potential first and second round pick. So if you're keeping track here, if we're looking at this, and we'll look at the grand scheme at the end of the day, but from Colorado and Edmonton alone, we could see the Seattle Kraken acquire a first and second round pick from Colorado and Edmonton. So 2 first round picks, 2 second round picks. Now, for Colorado, that may be in 3 years because they don't have their second round pick for this year or next, thanks to the Devon Tage trade. But you're looking at a first and a second from those 2 teams each. And you're also giving up Oscar Klefbom's contract, which could be a bit of a dud. And Colorado gives up Eric Johnson. So this could be a very, very, very interesting situation for Seattle and kind of shaping up to look like the Vegas Golden Knights expansion, right? The Minnesota Wild are another team. In order to protect guys like Jordan Greenway and Matt Dumba, they would need guys like Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin, specifically Ryan Suter or Zach Parise to move their no-movement clauses. Now, Minnesota's in a different boat than Edmonton and Colorado. I do not believe they will be trading their first-round picks. They're going to basically say, listen, these are the guys that are available. If you want them, great. If not, you figure out what you're going to do. But we are protecting our guys like Matt Dumba and Jordan Greenway. That seems to be what Bill Guerin wants to do here with the Wild. But like I said, if they do want the Seattle Kraken to for sure take Zach Parise or Ryan Suter off the books, it's likely going to cost them a first and a second round pick at the very least. So again, you're getting that salary cap space back, but is it worth it? Again, the Minnesota Wilds, a lot of rookies are going to be on this team the next couple of years, a lot of their young guys. So are these contracts too long where it's going to affect, and interfere with these young guys' contracts like Marco Rossi and Matt Boldy down the road? Or is it something where, all right, we'll just eat it up for now. We'll worry about it in the future. We've got our draft picks. Let's keep the draft picks and continue to build and not worry about the Suter and Parise contracts all that much. So that's something that we could see. But again, they have no move clauses. So Parise and Suter would have to be willing to lift those no move clauses. Tampa Bay. Now, the Tampa Bay Lightning, we all kind of know the verdict in Tampa Bay is that supposedly Julian Breezeball, the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, wants to send Tyler Johnson to the Seattle Kraken. Now, Tyler Johnson, you may be wondering why Tyler Johnson in particular. Well, 2 reasons. One, Tampa Bay's been trying to move Tyler Johnson for the past year and a half, even 2 years. And the second thing, Tyler Johnson is a native of that area. So it would make sense for him to maybe go up there and maybe play the rest of his NHL career in his hometown state. So we could see Tyler Johnson head up to Seattle. That seems like a very real possibility. Now, a couple of rumors have been saying maybe we could see Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn, and a first-round pick go to Seattle in order for them to take Tyler Johnson, it would cost the Tampa Bay Lightning Alex Killorn and a first-round pick, maybe even a second. So, again, that seems to be what's going on with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They'll probably be able to get those guys moved out. Now, Nashville is another interesting team here. Nashville Predators are likely looking to move out one of Ryan Johansson or Matt Duchene's $8 million per season contracts. Now, it's going to come in at a price. First and second round pick are a minimum. And it's going, again, this is something that's going to hurt. I forgot his name now. David Poile, the GM of the Nashville Predators. It's going to hurt his ability to make moves with these big contracts. $16 million in two guys that really aren't even first-line talent forwards, centers. So the Nashville Predators, David Poile, maybe looking at this as an opportunity here. Listen, if it costs me my first and second round pick, whatever, as long as I get rid of that big, nasty contract of Matt Duchene or Ryan Johansson, it may be worth it for David Poile and the Preds. Now, another thing, and I don't have this team listed, but I think a team that's really going to enjoy themselves over this time is the Vegas Golden Knights and their fans, because they are exempt from the 32-team expansion draft with the Seattle Kraken, which means we could see teams maybe go to Vegas to make a move. Let's say a team like the Colorado Avalanche, right? You've got Cale Makar, Samuel Girard, and Devon Tays protected, right? But you still have guys like Jacob McDonald, Ryan Graves. You want those guys protected, but you can't protect them. Maybe send them to Vegas for 2 weeks, right? Send them to Vegas for 2 weeks for, say, a second round pick. And you have it in your agreement that Vegas would obviously give those players back, but keep the second round pick. Could we see something like that happen? I think there's a possibility. I think there's a real possibility. Now, what may be the problem here, what if, say, Vegas takes those players for a second round pick and then decides, you know what, I think we like these guys. We're going to keep them around. And they never return them to the Colorado Avalanche. That would be interesting. Now, again, I think there'd have to be some pen-to-paper situation there, because that does seem very risky for the Avalanche to do something like that. But it's going to be interesting. Will teams look to the Vegas Golden Knights to maybe say, you know what, why don't you take our players for 2 weeks? They could, we won't be playing anyway, so it doesn't matter if they're in Vegas or not. So why don't we just send these two guys to Vegas for a second round pick, and then you return them after the expansion draft? Or maybe they would never return. Like I said, maybe they never return to that original team. So I think Vegas could be, maybe going around the league licking their chops at the thought of maybe helping out. Maybe we'll help out Minnesota. Maybe we'll help out Colorado. Maybe we'll see something like that come down the pipeline. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think we could see here from the Seattle Kraken? Do you think we will see them maybe take a Matt Duchene, a Tyler Johnson, maybe kind of screw over the Avalanche? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.